Tensions have exploded once again in Kenya, where at least 31 people are confirmed dead and over 500 arrested following a nationwide wave of anti-government protests. The demonstrations held on the symbolic Saba Saba Day, commemorating a pro-democracy rally in 1990, have laid bare deep-seated frustrations among citizens, particularly the youth and farmers, over rising costs of living, entrenched corruption, worsening police brutality, including the finance bill, though it has been withdrawn and adjusted. Now, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights reports widespread injuries and alarming crackdowns by security forces, raising urgent questions about the state's respect for civil liberties and democratic dissent. This evening, we're joined by Njeri Mwangi, the Executive Director at Power 254 and Human Rights Defender. And of course, she's also our journalist. Thank you so much, Njeri, for joining us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now, Kenyans seem not to be backing down on protests, and President William Ruto, has equally met the resistance with full force. Of what implication is this precedent being set?
We are coming off a background where we know ourselves as a country that enjoys democracy. And since his administration came into power, we are seeing ourselves losing our democracy, and our voices are being gagged, and we're seeing a lot of brutal police repression, massive arrest, and these protests are not just defiance, but people want security, people want to be able to not pay so much taxes, people want the corruption to come to an end, people want an end to extrajudicial killings. So it's a cry for the administration to meet the people's needs and to implement the constitution as it is. What we've continued to see is an ignorance to the constitution and blatant disregard for our constitution and for rule of law. So these protests are really just a cry for the constitution to be upheld and for an end to brutality and for accountability and democracy.
A lot of things that Kenyans want right now from President William Ruto, and we're talking about 31 people who have died and over 500 have been arrested. How far are Kenyans willing to go or take these demonstrations?
Unfortunately, it seems that the government is pushing Kenyans to the brink and to, I don't know if you saw it on social media, young people were putting their eulogies and saying that if I don't come home, please tell my parents I went to fight for this country. So people are willing to die for this cause because it's either they die now or they will be dragged to their death by this administration. And so people are really pushing back against this government that is not keen and has turned a complete deaf ear to the people's needs. So people are willing to go as far as it will go, and until the president resigns or they get him out, however way that will come.
Yeah, so you're talking about resignation now. We know that police brutality and abductions of government critics has been Kenya's story even before Ruto came into power. Now, this would mean that the president has failed his people, right?
Absolutely, he has failed his people. Since he came into power, he's become more illegitimate than he was even when the elections came. When the elections came, people were willing to give it a shot and try, and there was a lot of hope and people believed that he was going to do the things that he said he would do. Only what has happened is we have seen him, it's like he's unmasking himself to be the person that we did not think that he was. He's nothing like he said that he was. He's been lying. He's been going through campaigns. He's been campaigning since he came into power. He has not delivered on the things that he said he would to the people. He said he was coming to help the hustlers. He has taken everything from the hustlers. We've seen people being shot in the streets. During protests, we've seen a lot of force that when we go out to the streets to protest against anything, we've seen a lot of force and a lot of arrest, and our rights to assemble, our right to picket, to demonstrate, to petition is being taken away from us. And what we've continued to see is even when people are arrested now, just this morning, I heard that people are being charged with terrorism, because of coming out to organize, because of coming out to fight for our rights. And some of these charges, if they take the day, then they set a very bad precedent that will not be able to fight for our rights, and we can be arrested. We've seen people are being taken from their homes, abducted and disappeared and threatened, And so if this continues, then we are going into a very, very dark place that we saw that people saw in the 80s and early 90s.
We actually hope we don't get to that point. Now, stay with me, Njeri. I have other guests that will be also shedding their light on this. I have Owala Ocheng, Communication Coordinator, Social Justice Movement. Owala, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, beautiful. And I also have Mwangi, who is a governance expert. Thank you so much, Kimani, for coming around.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so let me quickly take Owala's perspective as regards what's been happening in South Africa. Let's start from this point. Now, outrage, according to how we've seen it, has intensified over the recent death of a teacher in police custody, the shooting of an unarmed street vendor by police, Kenyans on the streets chanting that Ruto must go, and a change in the reforms and all that. Tell us more about how this is affecting the people in Kenya.
One thing that we must be clear of is that the situation in Kenya is an agitation by the people. It is the people who are leading the agitation, and it's not the politicians or any other class. And so to contextualize it and get it into context, that this is a people-led protest, and the people themselves are the ones who are taking this initiative. But however, we are saddened by the reaction of the government. The reactionary regime that has opted not to listen to the people, but rather use police brutality as a point of defense is worrying, and we need to condemn it with the strongest term possible. Another thing that is worrying is that the police have decided to rain terror on the masses. Today, the president declared that protesters will be met with total brutality. They will be shot. In fact, he said that they need to be killed. And then when in the same rally, the very people he was addressing, reacted by saying, no, just control them or arrest them and put them in jail. That's when he changed and said that they need to be maimed. But here we see that the state is becoming desperate and giving the police much power. But whatever is worrying, and it's now showing on the screen, is that the state is now arming goons to show up in these protests, people-led protests, so that they create confusion. And the goons are being armed and protected by the police themselves, so that they can create confusion and infiltrate the protesters. What we are seeing is that of all the casualties who have been injured and been killed, none of them was a goon. It is saddening that the state is taking this direction, trying to use goons to enforce their security measures, and that is challenging, and we need to condemn it, because when it gets out of hand, who shall control these goons? When it gets out of hand, then they will move from arming the goons with rungus and arming them with guns, and these ones need to be condemned. This government was a populist government that came to power on a class basis, campaigning on class basis, saying that they are out to defend and champion for the rights of the working class, the right of the poor, the right of those who are marginalized, and majority of them in the informal sector. But we are seeing little being happening. There is so little that has been done to curb the escalating corruption, which the youth are agitating against. Unemployment is skyrocketing. Corruption and misuse of state resources in this regime has been on the rise. And these are the things that people are rising against. But in retaliation, we can only see that police brutality is on the rise, because the state has run out of options, and the only option that they have at the moment is to come out with total force on the masses. Okay. Now, this worrying trend is that we fear that Kenya is slowly but surely turning into a police state, and we need to speak against it.
Well, I know you have a lot on your mind that you want to pour out right now. I mean, you're fighting for social justice, and we can understand how it might be tearing into you, looking at how a lot of people are being dealt with on the streets while advocating for better governance. So that brings me to Kimani, who's all about governance. Now, we've talked about these violent clampdowns that definitely is a violation on human rights. Now, is there a way to rein in the excesses of President William Ruto and the brutal force of the police against protesters?
Firstly, it's good to try and put what is happening in Kenya into perspective. We have a government that took power at a time when the country, youthful populations, majority of them are jobless. In fact, if you look at the statistics, Federation of Kenya Employers put it at 67% of youthful populations are unemployed. Now, this one is a startling data because if we put this data into perspective, we are saying that we have a population of about 15 to 18 million people, 67% of which is unemployed. Then we are talking of more or less around 8 million young people who do not have a job. Again, even those who are employed, if you look at the data tells you that the majority of them, in fact, the informal sector of Kenya employs about 90% of the population. So if you can take it that around 8 million people or youth that are employed in informal sector, meaning that they are doing non-discrete jobs without satisfaction, without good income to cater for their needs. And at a time where there is a lot of wastefulness, austerity measures are no longer an issue in the government. Then you understand why we have youth who are daring the police even to shoot them and they don't mind it. But because they've got nothing to lose, pushed the youth to a point where they've got nothing to lose, including the fear itself. And that is why you see every opportunity they see, it's an opportunity for them to picket. Now, picketing is a constitutional right enshrined in the Constitution as long as it is peaceful. So what the government has been doing, in my opinion, is to infiltrate the picketing of youth with goons so that they can discredit the picketing and they justify their use of brutality against the demonstrating youth. And basically, that is the situation in the country. A wasteful government that does not seem to care about the plight of its youthful population, and a youthful population, majority of whom are unemployed, desperate, and have got nothing to lose. So they decided that they have to take back the power because the Constitution says that all the powers belongs to the people. So basically what the people are doing, they've decided to take back power into their hands and they decided the fate of their country. Now, one thing that is for real is that in as much the president is justified in a way to say that he's not the first president to govern this country with youthful population that did not have jobs, he must understand that the youthful bubble in the country is bursting in his time, as a result of which then he cannot do things the way he's been doing or the way his predecessors have been doing it. He is presiding over a country that is at extraordinary moments, and he has to be extraordinary in the way he handles the situation, especially the youthful population. So if there has to be a solution, the president must put into place austerity measures. We cannot have a government that dedicates, between a period of 2 years, 6 million to renovate State House and its lodges and the office of the Deputy President, while at the same time, we have 10,000 university students that are dropping out of university due to lack of government funding. And when you put this into perspective again, you realize that the 6 billion that has been used to renovate State House would have kept over 30,000 students in school for a whole year. So these are the issues that you are grappling with. When you hear of hundreds of billions that are being squandered in a country where youth are jobless, the health system has issues, the education sector is clambering, the agricultural sector is underfunded, the country's debt is hitting the ceiling, then you understand why people are so desperate. Because again, to raise money, the government has put in place very harsh tax regime that has left those who are formally employed with more than 40% of their income going into taxations and government levies.
Okay, so this would actually mean that, you know, the William Ruto administration has missed it on many fronts. Now, I'm going to quickly engage Njeri on two areas. Corruption, it was part of what William Ruto campaigned about, said it was going to put an end to it while coming into power. What has he done that you would say has actually spoken or dealt with that? And the other side is the hijack of the protests. Would you say that it is state-sponsored? Because we know that it started on a peaceful note.
Talked about, it is definite that the protests have been infiltrated by goons. We've seen people who are armed walking and running beside the police. When they loot, when they attack, they are not attacked. The police do nothing about it. They just watch and let it happen. But when protesters advance, we've seen that we get shot. We get, whether with tear gas or even with rubber bullets or with live bullets. That's how we've had so many people die. I think in one of your clips that you showed there, you saw a young man who was called Boniface Karaoke Mwangi, who was shot in the head at close range. And he was in hospital, but I think that particular photo, he was passing and he was selling masks. And this has enraged Kenyans because he was just passing by. He had not done anything to the police, and they shot him in the head, and he died, right? He did not die in that moment, but he was in hospital, and this is continuing to be seen. Recently, in the last protest, we also had women get raped by these goons and by these gangs. We see people that are not uniformed police with masks and hoods so that you can't make out who they are. With guns, with these rungus beating people up in the streets. So it is sponsored. And the people that have said they will sponsor, the people who have been heard on national TV, who have shared even we've seen WhatsApp groups where these things have been discussed, where people are going to be equipped. We've seen people in primary schools or standing around some parts of the city being equipped with these weapons to come and beat people up during protest. They are being funded. So when the state then turns and starts saying that human rights defenders and activists are the ones that are funding this and calling it a coup, using careless words like coup, and yet nobody is being arrested about this. And the people that are being arrested and being attacked are activists and human rights defenders and generally active citizens in this country that are fighting for their rights. Then you can see that this government is hell-bent on making sure that they take away our democracy and take away our voices. The other thing that we're continuing to see, and we know for sure that is happening, is the cases that are being taken to court when so many people are being arrested across the country, and now they're using terrorism. They're saying that these are terrorists, yet there is no evidence to what they're saying about what is happening. So what we are seeing is what this state has done since it came into power. The impunity, the corruption, the misuse of funds that Kenyans are crying out loud for is what they are perpetrating, and they don't want to be questioned. They've turned this protest into something that is tribal, and they're saying that it is now one tribe that is coming out to get him. So Kenyans are saying, if you want to say that we are tribal, then we are all that one tribe. We are all going to be Kikuyu, because this is not a tribal card they're trying to play on us and turn it against us. Okay. This cry for Kenyans is because of the corruption, is because of the brutal use of force, it is because of the abductions, it is because of abuse of power, it is because of censorship, it is so many things that the government has turned a deaf ear to. And if they continue like this, then Kenyans will continue, and we're trying to slow down until we get the state's proper response to the things that people are talking about that are really biting them. Our tax is going up to 50%, but we're not seeing where that money is going. We say that we are paying debt, and he's continuing to amass debt, but where is this money going to? We see them taking land. We see them building a church in State House on public ground, and they don't want to be questioned. So
Okay.
if we lose the judiciary, then the rule of law will be completely lost because there'll be no one who will be able to uphold it and ensure that our constitution is really being upheld.
All right. Now, Owala, the president has tried appeasing the people by withdrawing the finance bill, readjusting it, sacking his cabinet, calling for a truce, asking for Kenyan youths to come around for dialogue. Don't you think that is enough to quell this uprising? And two, don't you think it is time for Kenyans to come together, come to the table and have some sort of a discussion with the president of what needs to be done?
No, the president is not the one to offer us the solutions. The president is to take the solutions from the Kenyans. The solutions that the president is offering, these are state-controlled solutions. Remember, the president was adamant about the Finance Bill 2024. That was last year. This year, they passed it. They used Albert Ojwang's death to pass the Finance Bill. While you were busy protesting, they barred all the media from broadcasting whatever was happening in Parliament, and Finance Bill 2025 unfortunately passed. And even the majority leader was heard bragging that everything that they wanted in Finance Bill 2024, they passed it in Finance Bill 2025. And so they are in control. And so these solutions that the president is offering, these are just piecemeal solutions that are not tangible. They are not working. In fact, even the president calls for a national dialogue, and then he says that it will be held on X space. As in, who does that? And so the structure, whatever the citizens are asking, first of all, the citizens are asking that total police reforms, bring an end to police brutality, bring an end to extrajudicial execution, bring to justice those police who are caught killing, some have even been captured on cameras, killing. And so nothing is happening. And so people are not, the government is not deliberate in the solutions that they are offering. One of the solutions that people-centered solutions that the government has been given, they have not championed towards it. And so that is worrying.
All right, so Kimani, your final thoughts, way forward, 30 seconds.
Forward is that the government must listen to the young people. They must stop playing politics of expediency with the desperation the Kenyans are going through. They must institute austerity measures with seriousness this time around. And the government must be willing to meet young people and even hear from them and act on whatever the youth are agitating.
Okay. All right, Kimani Mwangi, governance expert, Wala Cheng, communication coordinator, social justice movement, Njeri Mwangi, executive director, Power 254, and a human rights defender, and of course a journalist. Thank you so much, gentlemen and lady, for sharing your thoughts with us on the show. We hope that there will be some sort of reprieve and an understanding so as to ensure lasting peace in Kenya.